All right, so here we are, basically at the end steps of this deck creation video, and the obvious card to essentially close out the game would be Greater Hoof Behemoth. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you got one, do it because it's an awesome card. I can't deny anything about it, but it's not budget friendly. So what I think I'm going to end up doing with this deck is I'm going to use two of my favorite budget-friendly fake Crater Hoofs, and those are Enray's Forerunners and Earth Shaker Giant. Um, Enray's I put in a lot of decks. I just love the card. It's Vigilance, Trample, Haste. The fact that it gives all your other creatures Vigilance and Trample was great. It's expensive, as far as mana is concerned. 8 mana for a 7/7, but it itself has haste, and it combos once again with our commanders. Earthshaker Giant, kind of the same deal. He's only 6 mana, and he gives +3/+3 and trample to other creatures you control. Both are going to be, basically my win cons in this deck. I don't really have any creature fetch cards. I'm not a big fan of tutors in general. Even the land ramp ones, I think, as weird as it sounds, they somewhat unbalance the game and take the fun out of playing commander. If you can go get the card that you need to combo out, then why are you playing a 100 card game? We'll go play standard. Go play modern. That being said, these are the win cons, and now I'm gonna just kind of move on to some like value engines. The value engine essentially of the deck. Um, so first things first, I think Strionic Resonator is a definite include. Copy target triggered ability. Obviously, the ETBs are triggered abilities, so those are things that you'd want to copy and really take advantage of. So, having Strionic Resonator on the battlefield, you cast Earthshaker Giant or bring them back from exile with Livio, and then you tap Strionic Resonators. Now everyone's getting +6/+6 in trample. I mean, that'll pretty much wrap a game up if you have a big enough board state. All your little guys are suddenly powerful. Conjurer's Closet. It's just a nice little value card that's going to allow us to take advantage of flickering creatures and then bring them back into play to either go fetch lands or do whatever we're going to do, destroy artifacts, destroy enchantments. So I think that's a nice artifact to include. And this deck doesn't really have a lot of artifacts, so I don't think all of our removal is going to come back to haunt us because these two things they're not real key elements to winning. They're just cool elements to winning. Speaking of flickering stuff, you have these two instants, which are nice: Ephemerate and Cloud Shift. Both exile creatures you control and then return them to the battlefield under your control, so you can double up on some of your ETBs. There's plenty of cards in the game that do this, but because the nature of this deck, I really don't want to rely so much on instants and sorceries. I really want, or enchantments for that matter. I really just want to rely on creatures. I'm going all in on the creature thing. If somebody plays like a Hushbringer and shuts us down, well, I guess we're kind of boned, and we're just gonna have to slug it out in the trenches. But I think that's part of the fun of making a commander. You want a deck to be well rounded, but you don't want it to have answers. I don't think having answers for everything is good for the format. I think if somebody finds a way to shut you down because they're playing a card like Hushbringer, good for them. They happen to have the right card at the right time to stop your deck. More flicker effects. You got these guys. You got Flicker Wisp, Felidar Guardian, Glimmerpoint Stag. I believe Glimmerpoint Stag and Flicker Wisp put them back onto the battlefield at the end step, whereas Felidar is like immediately. Now, I'm sure there's a way people have abused Feldar Guardian to combo stuff like crazy. We're not trying to do that. These are just cards that are going to help you flicker stuff when you can't get Livio on the battlefield or don't have the resources to utilize his ability. Or if you just need to remove something, you play Flicker Wisp, you flicker your Earthshaker Giant, and then you pay the 2 mana with Halana and bop something for 6. So there's those. Now, speaking of like flickering stuff, I think it's a good idea to have little guys like this in the deck. Soul's Attendant, Soul Warden, and Daxos. And one more too. Where'd she go? Oh yeah, here she is. Suture Priest. To try and get some value out of your things constantly coming in and out of the battlefield. Now, Daxos is only your own creatures, but he also gets them on the back end if they die. But Suture Priest, whenever a creature you control enters the battlefield, you gain a life, and whenever an opponent's creature enters the battlefield, they lose a life, so that's kind of fun. And then Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant are the same thing. Whenever another creature, period, enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. So Soul's Attendant is a may, Soul's Warden is a must, but I think they're all good cards and good little 1 and 2 drops to put in this deck, just to try and build up your life total before things get out of control. So next I have here are cards that can put things back in your hand. Oh, well, he was supposed to be. All right, Wispeweaver Angel was supposed to go with the Feldar Guardian group. So he's just a 6 mana 4/4 flying, does the same thing and then returns it. But these guys, White Mane Lion, he flashes, comes into play, return a creature you control to your hand, so you can protect your commander with it, as well as try and get some value out of your other creatures who have ETBs. Aviary Mechanic doesn't have flash, does the same thing. Invasive Species, I think is kind of neat. It's a nice budget card, 3 mana for a 3/3. Enters the battlefield, return another permanent you control to its owner's hand. Now, it doesn't have flash. I'm not gonna, bother with if you want to include a Vidalcan Ori in your deck and you got the budget for it, go right ahead. But I think he's kind of cool. He gets double up on an ability. But then I think the best card for this mechanic is easily the Tamor Sabertooth. Return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, he gains indestructible until end of turn. So someone goes to board wipe, or you yourself go to board wipe, bounce your commander, Sabertooth gets indestructible, everyone else's stuff dies, and you could start your engine all over again. It's no secret how great Tamor Sabertooth is for an uncommon. I have a stack of them just because it's like a staple. I just love it. I love it the same way I love Oblation. It's just a card that can do no wrong. So yeah, definitely include that. And then second to last setup I have here are just cards that are just good value. Eternal Witness is a no-brainer. Enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Treasure Hunter. Enters the battlefield, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Like I said, we don't have a lot of artifacts in the deck. But if you wanted to switch it up, I don't think he's a bad addition. This guy I like a lot, and he's made it into a lot more decks as of late, is the Loaming Shaman. When he enters the battlefield, target player shuffles any number of target cards from his or her graveyard into his or her library. So you can target your opponent with that, which is nice. You force them to shuffle a graveyard into their library. If they're running some kind of crazy like Marin recursion deck, I think that's a good option. But on the other side, you want to get your board wipes back or get your some of your removal back, you shuffle your graveyard into your own library. So I thought that was kind of a good deal. Thragtusk, another great value card. Enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. When he leaves the battlefield, not dies, but leaves the battlefield, create a 3/3 beast creature token. talk about synergy with both of our commanders. He comes into play, gain 5 life. You could have him fight with Halana, then flicker him, you know, with Livio, and get the beast as he leaves. I was trying to look for other cards that have a leaves the battlefield mechanic, and I did find this guy, Deadwood Treefolk. He's got Vanishing, which is kind of sucky, but he's a 3/6, and when he enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So he's like a late game Eternal Witness, and combos nicely with Livio and Halana. Two other cards I have here that are just kind of funny, sort of. You got Evangel of Heliod enters the battlefield. You put a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to white. So we can make a lot of mans for our late game swing with Earthshaker Giant or Enrace Forerunners. So just getting a bunch of boys on the board is always good. And then this one, if you think you can outlast your opponent, I think this card is a fun include. It's not going to win you any games really, but it will keep you in the game at least. When the Arbiter of Knowledge enters the battlefield, each player's life total becomes the highest life total among all players. So you can stall until you get something that you can use to win. If you are actually fishing for your win con. I don't have a problem with white deck stalling because they're bad. they need all the help that they can get. The last part of this value slash win con is a card I showed earlier, which is Great Oak Guardian. He's got flash. He's a 4/5, and when he enters the battlefield, creatures target player control get +2/+2 until end of turn and untap them. So it's a gotcha card. You can flash him in if your opponent's swinging away, untap all your guys and block, and they're bigger. This other card I have is a smaller version of Great Oak Guardian, but still just as effective. He's a 1/4 Village Bell Ringer. He's a 3-mana flash human scout 1/4, and when he enters the battlefield, untap all creatures you control. So I think both these are fun little gotcha cards. You catch your opponent off guard, and either you can also give your creatures vigilance when they attack. But there's not a lot of combat tricks in Commander, and I think this falls into the category of fun combat tricks. Last card I kind of just wanted to mention real quick, another ETB value engine, is this guy, Verdurous Gearhulk. He's a 4/4, enters the battlefield, he puts the +1/+1 counters on things. Now, we don't have a lot of stuff in this deck that I've showed that deals with +1/+1 counters, but I do think there is a way to build this deck to get +1/+1 counters as a way for the deck to win. And then, if that was the case, I think he would be an auto include, because you do have a lot of cards that have like triggers for things that enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter and so on and so forth. And then one last aspect of the deck I wanted to talk about was just board protection. You could use Heroic Intervention, but I do think that Rapid Vigor is such a great budget option. It regenerates each creature you control. So they all become tapped, but they'll stay alive. Or something as simple as make a stand, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain indestructible until end of turn. I may include both of these just because I don't like when my board gets wiped. So both of these can protect you from that. And they're well costed. 2 mana and 3 mana is not too bad to protect your whole board state worth of creatures. So now I'm going to attempt to put the deck together. I'm not really going to go over my land base, other than what was it, that Ondu inversion or whatever, like some of the modal dual lands. I slot them in up to 3 land spots. You're dealing with the land coming into play tapped, but I usually don't care about that because I'm playing casual. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the deck together, sleeve it up, and come back and just go over what I decided to keep and what I decided to cut.